Welcome to the Trail Network podcast. Today we welcome Eszter Csillag, a professional ultrarunner for Hoka, a mom of two girls, 5-year-old and 3-year-old, and someone who just defended her PhD in art history this year. We recorded live from our Airbnb in Old Town Auburn at Western States training camp, which really kicks off Western States season. Today we learn a little bit about Eszter's background, our battle, or more like how we worked together for 3rd and 4th place at Western States last year. She spoke about the attempt at Western States and UTMB in the same year, what she thinks about failure, and the races she has dominated since then. Eszter shares what she calls the machine, the community of help it takes for all of this to happen. We hope you enjoy this episode and hope you have caught Western States fever like both of us. Eszter Csillag, welcome to the Trail Network podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. So great. I am in Auburn here for the Western States training camp. So I'm doing great.
Okay, everybody, we have some very exciting news. We are recording this live. I know that Leah's done live a couple of times. I have never. So this is my first live in-person podcast for the Trail Network pod, and it's very fun to be here with my friend. Okay, let's start back to when we met, because we had been working together for several months, for a while, actually, even a year maybe. I don't know, with the Professional Trail Running Association, with the Women's Equality Group. And we meet in line at Western States training camp last year and in line for the bus. And I about had a panic attack because I didn't know you were going to be there. And it was like this woman that I have been in touch with from across the world is now standing in front of me. And then we sat the entire hour-long ride to Robinson Flat, just chatting away. And I was like, now I have a friend for life. Do you remember that moment?
I do. I absolutely remember. And it was so amazing because I think via Zoom, like you can do many things, but the personality of the other person, it doesn't really come through. So it was really amazing to meet you in person and see like your energetic vibes that you have and you carry. Like even during Western States, we were like running at the very end and you still had the same vibe. So I think it's something that it's always there. It's 24 hours 7. It's there. So I will never forget that ride to Robinson Flat. It was amazing.
Okay, so now we're back at Western States training camp. And for people that don't know, Western States training camp happens over Memorial Day weekend. It's super fun. You actually don't have to be in Western States to be a part of this training camp. But a lot of people come that are racing Western States. So it's just kind of a big adult summer camp, really, and all fun vibes. The stress is low, the energy is high, and it's just a great time to like see the whole course again. So we're back. I'm here just hanging out since I'm not racing Western States, just volunteering and wanting to be with amazing friends. But what brings you back to Western States training camp? Do you have a race in a couple of weeks?
I think I do.
What are you doing?
So I'm coming back because I'm running Western States again, end of June. So it's 29 June.
29th of June. Okay, so let's get a little bit into your backstory. You are from Hungary. You now currently live in Hong Kong. You have 2 little girls, and you decided to make the big jump across the pond to be here for several weeks leading up to the big dance we call the Big Dance of Western States. I do want to talk a little bit about what brought you into trail running and your beginnings, because I think it's an important story. I don't know how many people know about your first beginnings of trail running, and also when you were signed as a professional athlete was between pregnancies. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm coming from a big family and everyone is quite sporty. So I have been very sportive since I was born. But it's always like maybe I mostly played like team sports like basketball, volleyball, sometimes tennis, but yeah, handball. And running was always on the side. Just the school sent me for races, And after I finished the high school, I think I stopped racing because no one was sending me to races. So I just kept running, and I was quite disciplined, but it was nothing more. And it was only on road and treadmill. And then when we moved to Hong Kong in 2015, and by the end of the year or early 2016, a friend of mine invited me for a trail run on the Twins, which is a notorious hill. You have about 1,000 steps to go up. And I went with her, and I think that was like a love at the first sight. Like, I enjoyed so much that whole experience, that from that day onwards, like, I think I'm a trail runner. I i i i just kept, like, moved all my running on the trails. And then with that comes all the community, and everyone is doing races. So I started to do races. And then, you want to improve, because there is something that goes always wrong. And the nice part that I really like in my story is that I got pregnant in 2017 with my first daughter, Emma. She's 5 years old now. And then with Noemi in during COVID. So she was born in 2021. And I had some good races after that. So I just got signed for the first time last year, after having two daughters. So that's a story which is like, okay, this is really nice. It's and it's my life, so it makes me like very proud. Or just, what you can do if you just keep doing things. It's step by step. You can't really envision, but it's a really like nice thing. And also that after you have kids, is like life is not, it doesn't stop. You can keep doing things, and new things can happen to you. Yeah.
I feel like we both fell into trail running similar times in our life. Like, we were both professionals. We both had two children. We stumbled upon something that we loved, and then we both happened to be really good at it. And then sponsors believed in us, and then you become a professional athlete. And for me, at least, it was not ever something I manifested. And it sounds like that was the case for you, where it just kind of fell into your lap and you're like, let's go. But I think what's special about that is that it takes a special partner to go along for the ride, right? This has not been easy. You've had to leave your home for many days. I think last year you were gone from the girls for like 2 months in total throughout the year, that sort of thing. It's been a sacrifice for your family. So, can you tell a little bit about how your family has grown and how they've come to support this new journey and adventure for you?
Yes, absolutely. Like, it was not something that I manifested. It was after some good races. It was really a friend who was pushing all this direction. And then, I when I when something happens to me, or when I have something to do, I will try to do my best. And so then you start growing in that new direction or new path. Uh, from the family, yeah, for sure. Like, there are so many sacrifices that we have to do together, but it doesn't, I don't like to talk about them as a sacrifice, because it can't be seen as a sacrifice. Then it sounds that, okay, it's why you are doing it. So it has to be something that it's a negotiation, and sometimes it's about me. But for example, last year, most of the year was about me. And then December, I just gave space to my husband and to my daughters, and like, we were doing things that was for them. And I felt that was kind of a nice balance. But for sure, with the travel comes a lot of like organization. When the big machine goes into uh, like into like get started. And that was so nice to see how, like, my husband really support is like, he's really supportive, he's very proud. He's like, I even didn't know that sometimes in his free time he's looking, like, he's reading articles, he's listening podcasts. So he's quite up to date. And sometimes he surprises me, because I don't, yeah, it's not something that I would expect. But he really, like, he's really supporting. And I think that is so important, because this thing like trail running, especially ultras, takes up, like, eats up so much time. And you need to invest a lot of time. And if you don't have a partner, but you have a family, um, then you get so much stress, or um, that it just doesn't work out living together or having a family. So the support has to be absolutely like full on, I have to say. And but with the big travels, actually we put into the machine also the grandmothers and the grandparents, and that was really nice that over the years they changed their attitude or their opinion about me, like, going out for long runs. It's like, I think at the beginning I was like, okay, she's a bit too crazy, or okay, she's taking our dogs, but it's even the dog gets so tired. So it's like things like that evolved over the years, and now they are also like, over last year they were becoming much more like supportive in many sense. But for sure it's a great time for them to spend time with their grandchildren, and this is how I look at it. Like, sometimes it can be hard to be away, but I know that thanks to the fact that I am away, my children can have a great relationship with their grandparents. And I don't know for how long this will be, or how long they are so like healthy enough to help us out in this way. But I have to like appreciate that. And I had a great relationship with my grandmother, so I'm very happy that they are having, like, they get the same. And yeah, so I think that it's just a big organization. We have to organize everything ahead. But yeah, it's everyone is involved, and it's that is so nice. And I think that gives me a lot, just to know that I'm actually not pressing my family, or my family is not paying, the price in any sense. Like, my kids are happy at home, my husband is supportive, and so this is something that just gives us a lot of experience. And I hope that this experience also helps to grow our girls in a way that maybe will, you know influence them in one decision or another.
Well, and you're showing your kids to go after their dreams, right? And to your point, what you said earlier is that your life doesn't stop once you start having kids, right? And that your dreams just began, right? And the world just absolutely opened up. You've said a couple of things that I thought were really just poignant to me. We know in ultra running, it takes a village. We say this all the time, but I mean, it's in life. We say it takes a village, but in ultra running, really, this has been such a community driven endeavor for your family. I really liked the word you used. You said it's a part of the machine, which I think it's funny. I automatically think about like a dishwasher or something. Like, you throw in all the ingredients and it's just going to come out clean and it will come out all right. And just curious if you could talk a little bit about what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about the machine that is bigger than our small family. So it's bigger than my husband and our daughters, because we can't manage ourselves just like with all these things going on. So we need our grandparents, or we need our friends, like Kata. Everyone has a part of it. And what we try to do with my husband, that also they benefited. So it's not only that they are giving to us or giving to me, but they are also having a good time. Or for example, for like my mother, I know that at home she's looking after a lot of my like niece and nephews, and then when she's with us, she has only two girls, and so she's also having a relaxing time. So in that sense, she's also receiving something from us. And so it's a big machine where many people are involved, but I just want to make sure for the long term that everyone is happy, and no one is, you know a feeling that it's just taken but not given.
All right, you guys, let's talk about shoes. I've been running in our Terex trail shoes for the past 5 years, and I absolutely love them. I've put them through their paces at everything from mountainous 100-milers to fast California trails. Arc'teryx recently launched the brand new Cylon, which is also officially your new best friend on both long and short days on the trails. It's built with a Vibram outsole that's 30% lighter than traditional Vibram. It's got amazing cushion underfoot and an exaggerated rocker that propels you forward. I personally really love feeling faster than I am. It's kind of the best. It also has an anti-debris knit collar to keep all that dirt out of your shoes and on the trails. As I ramp up my training mileage in the next few months before my first 200-mile race in August, the shoes I wear in training and in my race are the most important thing for me to dial in. The Silent shoes are those shoes for me, and I think you should try them too. Head to Arc'teryx.com to learn more about the new Silent shoes. We would like to thank Arc'teryx for sponsoring this episode, and we will now get back to the show.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about Western States last year because we had a very fun day out there together. And to set the scene, it was the most competitive women's race in history for Western States. It was really, really fun racing you. At one point, I kind of want to backtrack. I guess we'll start maybe at Michigan Bluff, which for people that aren't listening, this is around mile 50. So about halfway through the race. And I see you, I come into the aid station, and that was the first time I was kind of feeling a little nauseous. And I remember feeling as if, okay, we came in as a group. There's like 7 of us or so. And I was like, I need to get out of this aid station because I need to keep up with the group. But I left a little bit later in the aid station than the rest of the women. And I go on ahead and I see you from this top of this hill, and you look back at me and you're screaming at me, Katie, let's go. And I just remember being like, oh man, like we're only halfway. We are racing so hard. And I had already done Western States 2 times, and I knew that I can't be pushing myself up this hill just to hang with the rest of the group because I needed to save some energy back. But that moment for me was like, oh, Esther, all right, let's go. And it was this like internal, like, I got to stick with the group. You're right. Right. And so then I took off, and then I was able to hang on the train. But there were several moments like this. Do you remember that moment running up up Michigan Bluff, up that climb, and looking back and screaming at me? Because that was a big part of my race.
The screaming part I forgot, but otherwise I do I do remember that we met, and then we were saying, during the training camp, this was the part that we ran together. Like during the training camp, we were not running together, but that few kilometers we did run together. So we said, oh, this is so amazing. During the race, we happened to run the same miles together. And then you said, let's work together. And I think from then onwards, it became like, yeah, let's work together. And we really worked together, I think, till like almost the very end. And that was so cool. Like, it made the whole race just so different. And it was like we were still competing. So it's not about, just having fun. We were working hard, but it was like a really, really positive experience. I will never forget. And it went like the experience did not finish when I arrived to the finish line, even when you arrived, and then you started to scream with your like infinite energy that matters. Mother power. It was like, okay, this is amazing. Yeah.
I was very proud of us. But okay, to backtrack a little bit. Okay, so we make it to Forest Hill. There, like I said, I think there were 7 women running together, which is very unusual for a 100-mile race to have at that deep into the race. So Forest Hill is around mile 62. And then there was like maybe 5 of us that took out of Forest Hill around the same time. And then I started opening up a gap on that section. That's like the best section for me and my strength. So I started opening up a gap there. And I passed a bunch of people in that section, felt really good. And then I make it almost to the river, and I turn behind, and there's Esther. And I was like, yes, let's go. And that gave me such a big boost because it was like, we are working together. She's right here. Let's go. And it was a raft year, which means that the river was so high that you couldn't go wade through the river. You cross the river by foot. You had to take a raft. And so then we took a raft across the river. You were in a different raft than I, but we made it across approximately about the same time. And then what do you remember after that?
So I had my crew at the river, but because you two, like we started to to run together just before the river, like maybe the last kilometer. So I didn't want to stop too much, and I think I just had some drink very quickly, and I just went into like into the river and wanted to keep up with you. So I remember that when we get out from the boat and we were going up, like you had all the crew looking after you. You had the ice jacket, and you were eating and drinking, and I was like super depleted because I just wanted to keep up with you. And then at one point, like I was asking, can you give me some Coke or something? And you were giving me something to drink. And that was like so nice. Later on, I think you didn't have a flask, and I gave you my flask. So it was like, it was not, it was, we were giving things to each other. That was so beautiful. And then um, there, I think we ran together like for 20 kilometer or something like that. And it was so amazing because it was just like, yeah, let's keep going. And it was, yeah.
Okay, I have another memory. So we're at Auburn Lakes Trail aid station. It's mile 85, and you stop and grab some watermelon. I remember because it was watermelon, and I remember we were really close to each other. And I turned and I looked at you, and you're so good with eye contact, and your gorgeous blue eyes, and you just like stared into my soul. And I still remember this moment. It was like this warrior cry of let's I can't swear on this. Can I swear on this? Let's fucking rock is what the message I got. It was like, let's go. But we knew at that point, I mean, there was 15 more miles to go for the race. And it was like anyone's game. And it wasn't like competitive, let's fucking go. It was like, we're going to do this. We got to throw down. And I remember that moment because I remember like locking eyes with you. My competitor, at this point, we're running third and fourth at Western States. We're both competing for the podium. And, it's a really exciting time for sure. And we both knew the importance of the moment. And I just remember that. Do you remember that look? I need to know.
No, I don't remember, but you told me that I looked at you. I don't remember, but yeah.
Deep into my soul. Deep into my soul. Okay, so then we're running along. My pacer had GI issues, so my pacer was dropped, unfortunately, one of my really good friends, and she was really, really sad that she couldn't stay to pace. So that left me without a pacer. So I'm alone without a pacer. You have an amazing pacer, Helen Mino Faulkner. We all know her, love her. She's pacing you. It's her first time pacing Western States also. And she starts messing with us. Can you tell the listeners what she said?
She was saying that you come with us, I think, right?
Well, and then she was saying, oh, guess what? You have fifth place is right behind you. She's 3 minutes behind. She would like pick up her phone and say, I just got the message. Ida Nilsson is right behind us, 3 minutes behind, and Emily Hoggood's right behind her. So you guys got to pick it up. And we were both really, hurting at this point. At this point, we're like 90 miles into the race or so. No, less than that. Probably, I don't know. But probably around 90. And we were like, all right, we got to work together. And then, so at one point, then you take off up this uphill single track and I couldn't hang. And you went on to close. I remember getting to Pointed Rocks and finding out you were 4 minutes ahead of me. You ended up even extending that gap and just feeling like she did it, that she freaking did it. She nailed it. And Esther, you went on to finish fourth fastest Western States in history behind Courtney Dauwalter, Katie Scheid, Ellie Greenwood, and yourself. Pretty phenomenal day. So anyways, to wrap all that up, I crossed the finish line. We had been sharing ice back and forth for the last 25 miles. I definitely had felt the camaraderie, the love. I didn't have a pacer. I felt like we were kind of taking care of each other. And anyways, it was a really special moment. And for us both to be moms and celebrating this moment together. Anyways, it was a memory I will never forget. So thank you for giving that to me. But I need to know, you're about to race Western States again. What are you doing different this year?
I'm having you as my crew. It's a good question. well, compared to last year, I don't want to do many things differently. I just want to have a good race as I had last year. After Western States, I tried UTMB, which didn't go well. And I had a good UTMB the year before. So I think now my goal is actually to repeat a race that went very well. So the expectation is high, uh, but I don't want to mess it up. I want that it goes well again. And if it goes better, whatever, but it now it's the lesson that I got from last year UTMB that I'm carrying with me, with myself, with me. And yeah, that is what I'm bringing it here. And yeah, let's see. But I know that like weather conditions and so many things are out of our control. But I just have the last few weeks to do my best to get ready, and I'm so excited. I really enjoyed the whole race. I think like all the people that who I met at the aid stations, you know, that you meet during the training camp, and they are working for this race like for decades, and they are out. And yesterday I ran with a guy who got his entry because he was doing trail work for years, and he was showing me, you know, this is a corner that I did it. These are all special moments that make the whole race just much more like, you know, you connect to it much more. So it's really, really a nice day, and I hope I am going to have a nice day again.
So you mentioned that you went on to have a UTMB that wasn't your best day. You had a GI bug and it was tough. You came out of that. It was tough. You were fit and ready to go and you didn't perform the way you had hoped. And you had to DNF that race because of this GI bug. But then, and I don't want to focus too much on that. I know you've talked in other podcasts about what you went through, and that was hard because there was a lot of eyes on you. You went into that race as a favorite. You know, you had just podiumed at Western States and you had already done well at UTMB before. And so you had a lot of pressure on you. And I think coming out of that race, you know, it was like, well, what's next? You know, and then I'm gonna read off what you did after that. So you won the Moon Tracker 40K and set a course record. Correct me if I'm wrong in here. You won the Translanto, I can never pronounce that, Translanto 100K, then the Izo Trail 70K in Japan, then the Vienna Marathon, which was also the Hungarian championship and set a new personal best for your marathon, right? So you've really destroyed it, been nonstop since UTMB. So you have to be going into Western States feeling really good about your fitness and about doing the double again. So I'm curious if what you would say to yourself after what happened at UTMB last year. Are there any words or advice that you would have given yourself, you could give yourself now, and say what you would tell yourself after UTMB last year?
It's difficult because I think when we are like competing, we have to be also harsh with ourselves. I mean, because we have expectations. So that's something that it's difficult to negotiate on that, because otherwise, okay, then you just go out and whatever. But to be honest, like I think just to be ready to fail, you know, that is like, and also failing is not necessarily a negative things, but maybe it makes you better or it makes you stronger. Probably I needed, you know, I needed that lesson to get better, to get stronger for many things. So in the long term, i I had to go through that to be where I am now. And I think that is something that is important, like, because doing the double is never going to be easy, but and there is a big chance of failing or something goes wrong, right? So then you have to just realistically accept that that's part of the game, but also that probably allows you to be much more honest with yourself. So that's a kind of fine line that I'm trying to keep track on, or I have to keep track on actually right after Western States.
Okay. One last thing that we haven't talked about yet. Another big thing you did this year or in the last year is you defended your dissertation for art history. You have a PhD in art history. So we haven't mentioned that yet. And I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about that, because we know that you've said this before, we've written about this, we know this, but tell me, what are your plans with having a PhD in art history, or what are your deepest desires in that field, and where does that fit into your life now?
Yes. So after many years, after 6 years, I defended my PhD in March. Now I need to do some changes in my dissertation and I have to submit that by September, but otherwise it's all done. Invested in art history a lot. That's why I left Hungary. I went to study in Italy. I did my BA and MA there, and I kept studying after we moved to Hong Kong. So for me, that is something that is a very important part of my life. I do think that art is just normally part of our life. I don't see it as a luxury. I grew up having art around me, so I think that gives me like a very special relationship to the art itself, and then on top with studying it, I have the knowledge, and I do think that for now I just have to finish the PhD, and I need to, like, in long term, I'm sure that I will be wanting to go back into the art field after few years when maybe I'm not competing anymore at this level. For now, I have to say that the running just takes up so much of my time and I can't do things halfway. Like if I do something, I have to do it well, which not it's not always good, but this is how I'm done. So for now I focus on running, and it also gives me time to, stay more with my daughters. But after that, I'm sure that I will go back into the art field, and that's where I want to be later on.
You have your own type of art that you're giving our world. You're sharing your art piece with us. So thank you. Your masterpiece. Okay, before we go, the last thing I'm going to say is we've been working together very hard with the Professional Trail Running Association for women's equality in commentating across media, across live stream coverage, amongst lots of other things. But that's our current project that we're working on. Can you tell me why that's important to you and what you hope that comes of all of this work?
I do believe that women has the right, just as men, for anything that any human being can have in the world. And so for me, as a woman or as a mother, I have the right for the same life as a man has, right? So and I don't want to compare myself to a man. I just want to have the choice to choose the things that I do. And I think many, like, women has to have the same choice and have the decision making, the possibility to make decisions for themselves, whatever they want to do, and other people around them have to support them. It's not only women supporting the man, but even men supporting the woman. And so with the trail running, we see that there are many women who are like training or running on the trails, but when it comes to the races, you can see that there is a big, like, gender difference. Like there are much more men compared to women at the start line, and that what comes through from that is that this is a metro sport. It's a very difficult. You are going out into the mountains for many hours and whatsoever, and we don't look at the other side, that being out into the nature, that is something that women do it as well. They do enjoy. They are capable. They are strong. And so we need to show the woman side of this sport to make sure that women see it as a sport that can be done or by anyone. And I think that there are so many, like as yourself, that there are so many runners who have amazing stories, and these should be told. Like it's not only the stories and great stories of men, but also the women stories. And with the Pro Trail Running Association and this Women Equality Working Group, we created a platform where finally all these women who who really wanted to work on this and make changes, they come together, and now we can work on things together, because it's not true that we are the first. There are many people who did or started this work before, or they share the same values, but it's being together and having this strong community, we can really achieve things, as we showed in already the last year. And I think also this year we will make some great changes, and that is something which is super exciting. And I do see the same happens in the art world. If you look at the women artists, where are they? Like when you look at the art history, it's made up of men. Like one of the most said art history book, which was written in the 20th century, actually has only one woman artist who was mentioned. And it's not true, but you need to give the access, and you need to tell their stories, and you need to give the space. So it's many things that are in parallel, I see, in that sense, between the art world and the sport. But actually working on it, it just makes us much more powerful, that it's not only thinking, but like talking about it and trying to do it. And because we are together, it's not a selfish thing, it's something that we share. Like these are projects that we want to make it happen, and that's so good.
Well, Esther, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. You are truly an inspiration to me and to so many moms across the world, and runners and art historians and humans. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today, and good luck at Western States.